Bradley Stalder, Ryan Reynolds with you, man versus machine. This is the last episode of Man versus Machine, Ryan, in 2024. It's been great chopping it up this year with you, like an absolute privilege. You're so sharp. You challenge me. I'm a big believer that in this space, Ryan, that iron sharpens iron, that we each learn from each other. And it's been great learning from you this year.
Likewise, man. Like, we had never done anything until the middle of August, I believe. You have an entirely different process than me. I learn stuff from you every week, and like you said, iron sharpens iron. And if you're watching this between the two of us too, like, ultimately we're looking to get better all the time. So it's been a beautiful thing, man.
I'm the machine.
All right. For those who are tuning in, Ryan asked you to put in some questions in the chat beforehand. So, of course, we're going to intermingle those with the theme for today, which is looking at not necessarily like doing a mock draft for 2025. We're not going to necessarily do that, but we are going to identify players that we want to be in on for 2025, whether it is based on what they've done this year to prove themselves in the fantasy space, or we like what they're projected to do in the future, what their organization has set them up for regarding success, and those types of things. We're not worried about certain obstacles maybe in their way in 2025. So I'm excited to dive into this, Ryan. We'll kick it off with the running back position, and I'll start with my first running back that I'm very excited for drafting in 2025, and that is Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Bucky Irving. Try saying that 3 times fast. Bucky Irving. I was doing the best ball value rating projections, value rating calculation. It's not like best ball points added. It is how much did this player contribute to a winning lineup? Like that question. Based on certain thresholds that we've seen historically hit at like running back 1, running back 2 levels, and those are tiered. Long story short, if you take away the first 3 weeks of Bucky Irving's 2024 season, where he was just getting rolling, he's the RB12 in best ball value rating. He was giving you some massive spike weeks, and that's in the coexistence of Rachaad White. Rachaad White really didn't go away this year, Ryan. We saw the coexistence of White and Irving in this high-flying Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. They're scoring lots of points, and Bucky Irving has proven himself to be at least a solid running back too. I don't think we were talking Bucky Irving RB1, like even back end for next year, but this is a player that I think can access those low end RB1 weeks pretty consistently relative to where he's going to be drafted next year. I want a lot of Bucky Irving.
I like that. I'll go as far as to say 2 things. One, I think the production the Buccaneers have gotten out of their running back room this year is one of the bigger surprises this season. It's kind of blown my hair back, the remnants of my hair, I should say.
What hair, right?
Yeah. What hair are we talking about here?
It blew all of his hair off. Should have seen right at the beginning of the season,
And the other one is the Buccaneers, I figured they'd have like a middle of the pack type offensive line, but they've been a top 5 type unit this year. They got Tristan Wirfs as a foundational piece. So that's a good thing going forward. And, I like the call personally on Bucky Irving.
Yeah, really excited to be. Where do you think he ends up getting drafted? Like the 5th round feels like maybe 6th round is about where I think Bucky Irving's going to land next year. And if that's the case, he's an easy click in that round. I'm not going to reach for him, but I think that's the right spot for him.
Yeah, I was thinking 6, maybe 7. So we're kind of on the same page there.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, hit us with your first running back that it's your guy. You're standing. You are taking a stand on. You want people to also listen to why he's your guy for 2025.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to see what he looks like with a, more of a full workload. But if I would take any other running back in the league over Jahmyr Gibbs from a football standpoint, I'd rather have Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley. I'd rather have Jahmyr Gibbs and Derrick Henry. He's the most explosive space player at the position in the whole league. And, he already has 1,000 yards rushing with 3 weeks to go. his passing game volume could go up. I mean, David Montgomery lurks, but premium offensive line, pocket passer, quarterback. I think he's an elite talent. I'm going to bet on him for Offensive Player of the Year almost certainly in the offseason. And I imagine I'll be higher than consensus on him going into next year's best ball drafts.
Gibbs this year, I was telling Ryan in the pre-show meeting, I did a top 12 best ball value rating list, and Jahmyr Gibbs going into week 16 is the number 6 overall player. The number 6 overall player. Only ahead of him, Jamar Chase, Lamar Jackson, Saquon, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry. And we talk about this Jahmyr Gibbs doing this in a 50% roll, 40% roll, 60% roll, just depend on game to game. Yeah. Like, and David Montgomery is not getting any younger. Like, this is like these MCL injuries. Sometimes they take a little bit to get back from, and maybe the Lions do address the back, like the RB3 in the off season, but because Craig Reynolds is not going to get it done. Vaki is not going to get it done. But that's not going to scare us away off Jahmyr Gibbs in round 1. How high do you think Jahmyr Gibbs gets? The 103, 102? Is he a 101 contender?
Contender, yeah. I think probably 104, 105 is what I was thinking, but I could see him creeping up. I mean, who's 101? Saquon probably next year? Saquon, then Chase?
Saquon and Chase are up there. People will still love on Jefferson.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to move off of Jefferson.
Yeah, for sure.
There's still going to be some Bijan stands, you know that, but you know, Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan, and Bijan finished 9th going into week 16. So yeah, still Gibbs.
Yeah, I think that way too. Although with Penix taking over, maybe Bijan's in a better offense next year. So, you know, we'll wait and see, but I love Gibbs. I think, again, I'm going to bet on him Offensive Player of the Year, which is essentially the best skill player award. So that's where my thought process is here.
Ryan, before we get into our next set of running backs, Player Profiler Fantasy Football asks, who was the bigger bust, Breece Hall or Marvin Harrison Jr.?
It's a good question. I mean, I think I actually would go Marvin Harrison Jr. because at least Breece Hall had some moments. Harrison's been, you know,
oof.
Pretty bad.
Oof. Yeah, best ball value rating going into this week. Marvin Harrison, wide receiver 37 in best ball value. 37. I mean, I was low this offseason. Wide receiver 29. He was not a player I was taking a lot of at the turn. The only reason I was interested in that turn was because Puka Harrison, like, you know, this could be, you know, the Amon-Ra CD Lamb 1-2 turn from the previous year. Like, that's the week 17 correlation. Like, that may be the pathway. That was my logic for, if I took Harrison, I want to take Nakua. But other than that, there wasn't much Harrison in my portfolio. So yeah, it was just hard to see passing volume all being there with a strong Trey McBride. And the questions were, was he going to get 28% of targets, 26% of targets? I didn't think so. I thought it was going to be closer to like 21, 22. And that drops you down significantly. And so that was the logic behind it. It worked out, but I didn't think it would be this bad, Ryan.
Yeah, I was lower than consensus on him. I wasn't nearly as aggressively lower than consensus on him as you were, which obviously was the right call. But yeah, I didn't really see this coming unless he got hurt.
All right, we'll keep her moving here. Ryan, I have to give you some credit. You were in on Chase Brown going into this season, and now he is a Bradley guy for 2025. I think the reason I have this confidence in Chase Brown is because of the Bengals' confidence in Chase Brown. Zach Moss faded away before the injury. Yep. It was clearly Chase Brown taking over the backfield. He was getting 65, 70% of the snaps before the Zach Moss injury. And then after that happened, they traded for Khalil Herbert and didn't give him any snaps. Talk about organizational confidence with a player who has been an RB1 pretty much the whole season. He's been getting all the touches on a good enough offense that's getting into these shootouts. Give me more Chase Brown. Like, do we expect anything to really change for the Bengals in 2025? I don't think so.
No, I mean, he not only has he been productive, but he's been good. Like, he's made a difference. He's created yards on his own. And the big knock on him his rookie year was he was liability in pass protection. He's gotten better in that phase too. So yeah, I mean, everyone needs a change of pace back. Everyone needs a bit of a reserve, but I think they're going to roll into next year with him as the guy too.
Yeah, and they may bring in another, backup, a guy who maybe, or maybe they give Khalil Herbert a little bit more, a sprinkling more, but it's clear that the Bengals are in on Chase Brown, and that's why you should be in as well. All right, Ryan, his with your next running back here.
I wrote this a few weeks ago. James Conner's been great for years. I wouldn't count him out until he's gone, but when Trey Benson has spelled him, he looks like he can be the guy. The Cardinals have a good offensive line, at least an offensive line that's trending in the right direction. Their passing game's been a little bit worse than I think most would expected, but they've leaned on their run game. I think Trey Benson can walk in and fill James Conner's shoes, so he'll be a premium stash that I target all the time in best ball.
Yeah, if we were in on the upside for Trey Benson for this year, like nothing's going to change. If anything, James Conner is older, right? And he's held up, which means that he's maybe not going to hold up later on. James Conner has traditionally been a player who has played 13 games in a season. Very rarely has he exceeded that. So for having a young player with third round draft capital, we have, this is almost a Blake Corum corollary as well. Another reason why I'm not moving off of Blake Corum in 2025 in the same breath is if the front guy goes down, we know who the number 2 is, and they're capable, productive players. So I like the Trey Benson call, also tying in Blake Corum.
Glad you did, because he almost made the list for me, so I'm glad you mentioned him.
Excellent. All right, my last running back, and in the pre-show meeting, Ryan, you were giving me some props for this one. It's Chuba Hubbard of the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers felt like they had a lost season and then a resurgence when Bryce Young came back. The reason why he's on this list for me is twofold. One, Jonathan Brooks' knee is really messed up. He's tore his ACL twice in the matter of about 12 months, 14 months. It's bad. Like, we should be having almost no exposure to Jonathan Brooks next year, even if he somehow makes his way back. Miles Sanders is not the guy. But the second reason, not just we're out on Jonathan Brooks, we're in on Chuba Hubbard himself because he's been good, and the Panthers rewarded him with a contract extension, Ryan. From an organizational perspective, if a guy is extended mid-season out of nowhere, there weren't there's been talk of contract. There was no rumblings about it. Out of nowhere, they're just like, we need to lock down Chuba Hubbard, because he's been playing very well. He's a guy who's bought into the Carolina Panthers organization, their system. They want him around. The coaches trust him in all facets of the game. They want Chuba Hubbard around, and that's why we should want Chuba Hubbard around. But the question is, where is he going to go in drafts? And I thought he would be, a 5th round pick? And you were much higher. You thought he deserved to be even higher. And I guess my pushback is organizational concerns. Like, I don't know if we can trust Carolina to be uphold like that offense to be good enough for him to justify that 2-3 turn. But maybe you can make the case, convince the people maybe he needs to be a little higher than round 5.
No, I don't think he needs to be that high, but I think he could be because, workhorse volume, there aren't a whole lot of those guys around. The Panthers are trending up offensively. Bryce Young looks like he can be a long-term option at the quarterback position. Dave Canales has gotten better as the season has gone on. And again, an ascending offensive line with a lot of young pieces in it still. The workload paired with that, I think you're right. I think he goes in the 5th round, maybe the 4th round, but I do think he could pay off big time. I'd love that call here. And like you said, that his signing came out of nowhere. Teams don't just extend running backs in the middle of the season. So I love that component of it too.
All right, Ryan, finish us off in the running back position.
So I'm gonna cheat a little bit here because I don't have a name for these two spots, but I want to bet on these two positions, these two teams, these two spots. If the Chargers or Broncos take anyone meaningful at the running back position, I'm going to be all over them. Both of them have premium offensive lines. Both of them have very good coaching staffs, particularly on offense. Most people don't like Greg Roman as a play caller. I'm a little bit more bullish on him. I think he's a good play caller. He just didn't. He took it easy with Lamar Jackson in the beginning. I get it. I get the concerns, but he always leans into what teams do well. So I'm confident in him. And, competitive teams. Herbert's obviously a premium quarterback, and Bo Nix at least looks like he's going to be a rock solid NFL starter, maybe even beyond that in Denver. So good offenses, really good offensive lines. A third-round pick, especially a second-round pick, a semi-premium veteran, even like a Devin Singletary type guy. I'm gonna love that and be all over that if they do that.
So J.K. Dobbins is finishing this season probably on the injured reserve. It would be surprising if we see him, come back. The knee injury seemed no bueno.
Yeah.
But if he's healthy for next year, J.K. Dobbins or a third-round pick for the Chargers, it's hard for me to move off of what we saw from Dobbins, and the coaches really did like him. How are you approaching J.K. Dobbins if the Chargers do add someone in day 2?
It depends on where he goes. I'm not going to overpay for him because I think he's mostly a product of the offensive line. And, he's just had so many injuries. So relying on him to stay healthy for a whole season and taking a big workload it's just the kind of thing I normally bet against. So I'll do it in this case too.
Is J.K. Dobbins the new Rashad Penny?
Oh, I think I love that. That's great. You actually stumped me. I'm going to say no because he's better than Penny, and I think Dobbins has more upside next year, but that's a really good one, man. I love that.
All right, we're going to continue with wide receivers and a few other positions after our break, but first a word from Matt Kelly about Fast Draft.
Oh, incredible news about Fast Draft. Fast Draft DFS is live. It's called the Flex 6 Frenzy. You just draft 6 guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends for the Sunday slate. You like Jahmyr Gibbs? You like Jackson Smith and Jigba? You like Tyrone Tracy? Draft him. And the beauty is you can just order 5 teams, submit your rankings, and Fast Draft will email you the results. We awarded $1,000 in prizes our first week, and we're just going up from there. Soon it's going to be a select 6. No drafting at all. You just pick any 6 guys. Our DFS mantra, just say no to salaries on Fast Draft. Don't forget there's free tools on Fast Draft too. You want to get ready for startup season? We've created the best Dynasty mock draft experience there is. And if you want to play in these DFS contests and our best ball contest for 2025 are coming very soon too, just use promo code PODFATHER when you deposit and you get a free draft. It's that easy. And you're like, oh, I already have Fast Draft. Great. Refer a friend. Have them put your username in as the promo code, and then you and your friend will both get an instant deposit match up to $25. We got DFS. We got Dynasty Mocks. We got Best Ball. It's all there for you on fastdraft.app. Check it out. And the promo code is PODFATHER.
Next Wednesday, Christmas Day, I'm going to be in the car for 2 hours. I'm not going to be driving. I'm going to be cranking out as many of these fast drafts as I can. Hope to see you guys in the lobby.
Exciting, Ryan. But what's also exciting about Fast Draft is just this week in the promo, Matt said that the Quick 6 was going to be available soon. It is available this week. Go to the Fast Draft app, select 6 running back, wide receiver, tight ends, and drop them into your booster slots to compete in a guaranteed prize pool. $500 guaranteed prize pool, starting small, of course. And then as these tournaments build up, we're excited to see the prize pools grow. This is how it starts. Get in on the ground floor, try it out, learn about the game theory. This is where the advantages, the edges can still be had in these smaller prize pools on Fast Draft. So check out, there's like a banner at the bottom. There's 2 things that I'm pointing out. One is the Fast Draft app. You can use promo code PODFATHER, but you can also use the promo code STACK for 100% deposit match up to $25. But you can also use the code SANTA for the next couple weeks to purchase the all-in package on Player Profiler for $25, just $25. You want to finish the season strong. You want to get access to all of the data that you have, that we have here at Player Profile, that Ryan uses, that I use to make our decision. That's right. $25 until next season. There we go. All right, Ryan. We're going to move to the wide receiver position. I wish I had more. I wish I had more of this player, and maybe that's part of why I want him on this list, and that is Jacksonville Jaguars first-round pick, wide receiver Brian Thomas. I want more. Give me more. He's the wide receiver 16 in fantasy points per game, and he's been working with Mac Jones the last couple weeks, right? We've seen, but even with Mac Jones over the last 3 weeks, wide receiver 16, 20, and wide receiver 4. We also saw earlier in the season, wide receiver 20, wide receiver 29, wide receiver 9, wide receiver 8, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 27. Is Brian Thomas the quietest wide receiver star in the NFL?
That's a great question. I think the answer might be yes. I mean, like you said, Mac Jones is a good backup quarterback, if we're being honest. I know people don't like him for a variety of reasons, but he's a good backup quarterback. But still, he's making it work with he's quarterback proof. DeAndre Hopkins was quarterback proof. Like I'm with you. I love the Brian Thomas call.
36 targets over the last 3 weeks.
Yes, please.
I know it's with Christian Kirk out, but guess what? Jaguars are probably going to move on from Christian Kirk. He was on the trading block right before he was, on IR. The Jaguars are probably going to move on from Evan Ingram. It doesn't make sense that he's cuttable, which, we'll get to in just a second, right? There's some foreshadowing there, people. So stick around. The Evan Ingram domino is going to fall, and we're going to see just an unloading of exactly like Brian Thomas was shadowed by Sauce Gardner, and he put up 10 for 105 and 2 touchdowns, 32.5 fantasy points.
It's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Who got sauced? Sauce got sauced.
Indeed.
Anyways, with Mac Jones, by Mac Jones. We want to be like, okay, so like Brian Thomas, like a 2-3 turn guy is where I want him to go.
Yeah.
Like I'll be tapping a lot of Brian Thomas at that 2-3 turn, but I think he probably ends up more of like the mid round 3, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the kind of guy where you want
like a
him
T.
to be
Higgins.
right. Like you
Michael
want him to
Pittman,
be like,
where those guys.
You want him to be like a 3-4 turn guy, but especially on underdog, he's going to end up going like 19th.
Please, no. Ryan, no. Don't speak that into existence. No, I want more Brian Thomas. I don't want to. I'm so angry at you.
We're no longer allies now. Hey, listen, I understand.
He's the man. I'm the machine. Oh my gosh. Where is it?
Machine.
There we go. All right. Okay. Enough anger toward Ryan. I need to cut him some slack. Ryan, hit us with your first wide receiver, my guy, for 2025.
I'm gonna go Malik Nabers. His volume's just been crazy. They just have, one of the most horrifyingly unwatchable quarterback situations in the history of the sport this season. It's Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, like, does it matter? If it's Shedeur Sanders, I'm really going to like Nabers. If it's Cam Ward, I'm still going to like him, but that's going to soften my stance a little bit. But the offense is probably going to be better, which, that's not saying much. One of the worst offenses in the league. Even if they're like 22nd in points per game next year, like that's a pretty big jump. Volume, high-quality player, Brian Thomas's teammate in college, ironically enough. And just, especially early in the year, like he's a guy where he's a matchup nightmare. They're going to feed him the ball still. I think he'll score more next year. And, as long as he doesn't get hurt, we're talking like a guy who's in contention to maybe lead the league in targets and or receptions.
The Giants have to add a guy, though, right?
A wide receiver, I think they have so many holes still. Like unless it's a veteran, I mean, they could go in with next year with Robinson, him, and Hyatt/Slayton. They could do that again. I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah, Nabers this year, Ryan, the wide receiver won in expected fantasy points per game, but the differential is 7.42 fantasy points per game.
Wow.
There's meat left on the bone.
Sure is, man. Jesus.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
7 fantasy points a game. Some players can't score 7 fantasy points in a game, much less, expected differential. We'll keep her going. Nico Collins, I think, has solidified himself as a back end first round wide receiver. It's just going to be an easy tap. Again, you're going to go to the well, but maybe I'm hoping his stock drops a little bit because of the actual fantasy points. We talk about expected fantasy points for like Malik Nabers, the amount of 40-yard touchdowns that were called back due to penalty this year for Nico Collins. Unfathomable. Like, literally, he came back from injured reserve, and each of the last 2 weeks, or each of the 2 weeks following, he was had those plays called back. So he's the wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game. So this is like what, 108 with the 109?
Yeah,
is that
I think it's
low.
No. I mean, I'm hoping he goes like 110 or later, but if he went 108, 107, 109, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Not in the slightest.
Yeah, he's at 20 expected fantasy points, which is number 7 among all receivers. So, he was wide receiver 7 in fantasy points last year, almost 1,300 receiving yards last year. He's putting up almost identical numbers to last year with CJ Stroud, despite the fact that the Houston Texans took a major step back in terms of their passing game. So yeah, we'll continue to ride the Nico Collins, CJ Stroud pair. Hopefully Stroud gets a lot cheaper in drafts. That's my hope. So that way, I'll buy the bounce back on CJ Stroud. He's not on my list, but if I don't know, they're going to fix it. He can't be much worse than what he is now, right?
No, I mean, going into this season, I called Joe Burrow discount CJ Stroud all off season. I could see it flipping for me next year where Stroud slides, and I call Stroud discount Joe Burrow.
Yes.
I could see that being a thing. I'm going to segue into my guy too, since we're talking about the same team. I'm with you on Nico Collins. I'm also going to be in on Tank Dell, hoping there's a dip with him. One, Stefon Diggs stinks. I don't like him, and he's not good anymore. So I'm done with him. Tank Dell had the bad leg injury last year, so there's at least a path to that getting better next year. Will be more explosive, more elusive. Ends up being a wide receiver 2 in an offense that maybe the Houston Texans in 2025 look more like the team we were expecting this season offensively. I'm willing to bet on that. I'm willing to be wrong on that, especially if Tank Dell slides into like the round 7 area. Like I'm gonna be wildly overweight on him if he gets to that point.
Yeah, remember in the offseason, I was talking all about how Tank Dell suffered the same injury that Tony Pollard did, and I was like, people are coming at me in the YouTube comments, in Twitter, like even the fantasy doctors were like, actually, it's a different injury, and I'm like, bruh, like, no, it is the same. They're gonna follow a similar path of Tank Dell's not going to do anything for most of the first half of the season. And that's what's happened. He has had 2 top 20 weeks the entire year. They came in week 6 and came in week 9, and that's been it. Still, you have to wonder if he's, just it takes the amount of touches to get back into the swing of things and trusting your ankle and trusting, that you're going to make the cut at the right time. And you miss some of the training camp drills that help build that strength or continue that. So yeah, the passing game has struggled overall, and Tank Dell has suffered as a result of it.
Agreed, man. Plus, another thing I'll throw in is he's not exactly a big guy, so him getting up to game speed, strength, and all that stuff, there's reasonable paths to him having a bounce back year next year, and that's the kind of stuff I bet on.
I'm like, almost 100 pounds heavier than Tank Dell, so like to get into game shape.
I've had meals bigger than Tank Dell. I mean,
oh boy, yeah. So Tank Dell, Ryan's telling we want to be back on our stuff again, because Diggs is only on that 1-year deal, right?
I'm not sure about his contract situation. I'm just
he may be gone after this year.
He could be. He should be.
He should be.
Yeah.
That's wild. That is wild. My next guy is Jakobi Meyers. I call him the next Tyler Lockett. He's pretty consistent, always undervalued. He could be a wide receiver 1 on a team when given the opportunity, and look what he's doing. He's the wide receiver 1 on the Raiders, and he's doing things like he's consistently a top 20 weekly wide receiver. Maybe he doesn't have the weekly upside of a Tyler Lockett. I grant that for sure. But in the undervalued realm, Jakobi Meyers is it. And we think about where he is right now. It's just Brock Bowers and Jakobi Meyers. Even if they add back somebody, who are they going to? They're going to aggressively go after someone in free agency? I don't think so. Not a wide receiver. That means they're going to bring a rookie. Yeah, it's Brock Bowers, it's Jakobi Meyers, and then maybe a day 2 rookie wide receiver. Their priority is quarterback. They're in Vegas. So an upgrade at the quarterback position is good things for Brock Bowers and it's good things for Jakobi Meyers. So I think we need to be back in on Jakobi Meyers, who's probably going to get round 9, round 10 treatment yet again. I think he's going to be undervalued for the 4th straight year.
Yeah, no, agreed, man. Plus, Vegas has so many holes on their roster that them even investing their 2nd round pick in a wide receiver, unless it's just a guy that you have to have there, I don't think they force it. Their defense just needs help everywhere. More stability on their offensive line would be a positive. And like you said, he's been a model of consistency. The Tyler Lockett comp's good because everyone for years, Tyler Lockett was almost free in most drafts. And like you said, especially in full PPR, like if you can get Jakobi Meyers in the 10th round in full PPR, I'm going to be pulling on the trigger on that constantly, regardless of which 1st round quarterback they pick.
Ryan, just to put a bow on the Stefon Diggs talk, his 2025 contract and beyond is void. So he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And he's going into his year 32 season. Yeah. Like maybe a team takes a shot on Stefon Diggs, or the Texans bring him back on like a team-friendly deal. But that's probably the pathway for Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, given his attitude and stuff, like it wouldn't surprise me if no one picked him up too. So, maybe
the Steelers. The Steelers will bring him in.
Yeah, that would make sense. Like, or the Chiefs. The Chiefs would make sense too.
Ooh, all right. Steelers and Chiefs are our 2 predictions for where Stefon Diggs lands. All right, Ryan, hit us with the last wide receiver for you.
I watch all these guys pre-draft. I like Keon Coleman a little bit more now than I did then. One of the things that I love about him is Josh Allen has given him some maximum confidence looks in the red zone and the scoring zone, which is, I think he has 10 touchdown upside next season. His statistically this year, production-wise, he's been a little bit up and down. And if your average Joe looks at his stats from last year, I'm like, I'm not really. This doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I don't think he's going to be like a 1,400-yard receiver or anything like that. But if he had 1,000 yards, 75 catches, and like eight touchdowns, that wouldn't surprise me at all. As long as I can get him at a good cost, I'm going to be all over Keon Coleman next year.
The Gabe Davis comp.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yeah,
love to see it. Ryan and I are going to chat about quarterbacks and tight ends in 2025. Before we do, a word from Matt Kelly about the player profiler packages that we offer.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on PlayerProfiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all this possible. If you can't do All In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks. Our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
That's right. You can use promo code SANTA, SANTA, to get the all-in package. That's everything for just $25. Check it out today. All right, Ryan, we're going to put a bow on the last two positions. We went pretty deep with running backs and wide receivers, guys that we like, that we're in on for 2025. Now we're going to look at just a couple quarterbacks and tight ends. For me, it's Baker Mayfield. I hit on how we are confident with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't anticipate that a lot of things will shift for them. They've made commitment to Baker. They know who their running backs are. They know the wide receivers. And Baker's done this. The reason why he's on this list is because he's made all of this production without Chris Godwin for a significant portion of it, without Jalen McMillan for a portion of it, without Mike Evans for a portion of it. He has produced, even if his wide receivers have been hurt for this year. We should have confidence, even if Chris Godwin leaves for 2025, which he may or may not. We don't know at this point. But what we do know is that Baker Mayfield should be in the conversation of he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. Like, he can make the plays. He can make the throws. Tell me I'm wrong, Ryan.
He's definitely been a top 10 quarterback this season, where, like, when you said that, I was like, oh man, he's actually right. Like, you could talk about that. Like, would you rather have Dak Prescott or Baker Mayfield right now? I mean, I know Dak's hurt, but I'd rather have Baker Mayfield if I need to win a game with my life on it. So
yeah,
that's a good call, man. And he's been in the lead, amongst the leaders in touchdown passes this year too. And like you said, they've been down wide receivers due to injury. That's a spot too where they may draft a receiver, like a premium one, or sign someone. So I like that. I like that.
They've leaned heavily on Sterling Shepard this year, which is wild.
Crazy. Yeah. Sterling Shepard was a broken man and a broken NFL player 3 years ago.
He was just made of glass. Like, his ACLs would tear like every 6 weeks, unfortunately. All right, Ryan, hit us with your quarterback that you are in on in 2025.
I'm going to, we'll see where he goes, but I expect I'll be wildly overweight on Caleb Williams. I expect Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel to be the coach there. Obviously, Ben Johnson's better for Caleb Williams. They're going to have three potentially top 40 picks this year. I would expect they're going to spend at least one of them, probably two, on their interior offensive line. Maybe they bring a veteran offensive lineman in too. Situation's already strong. I think it gets better, and all they need is a play caller that can help them play in structure. Thomas Brown was able to do that until they, quarterback coach, then offensive coordinator, then head coach. Like, that is a tough job. Tough job. They did not do him any favors by naming him interim head coach. But they get stability there, a real play caller, better offensive line. Williams has rushing upside. He's I'm not going to call him an MVP candidate next year, but if they handle this stuff right from an organizational standpoint, like, this is a guy who wins an MVP in his career.
See, but Ryan, you're forgetting that this is the Chicago Bears.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Sorry,
Very
Chicago
fair point.
Bears fans. It's but Chicago Bears fans would agree with me. They have been through years of suffering. They understand this is a disaster zone. Yeah. Yikes.
It's true.
But nowhere but up. We've seen the ceiling for Caleb Williams. It's quarterback 3, quarterback 2, quarterback 5 on a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can get there with the rushing, with the plays out of structure, but it's the in structure that needs to exist for him to have that consistently high floor, because the ceiling exists, but the floor is the ground.
Yeah. The floor's been bad this year. Definitely has.
All right. My second guy for at quarterback, Drake Maye, New England Patriots, also a rookie quarterback this year. The big part for me is twofold. One is Drake Maye has shown that he can rush at the NFL level. That is a high floor type of move. He's averaging 36 rushing yards per game. That's fifth in the NFL. 359 rushing yards is eighth among all quarterbacks. And he's going to get the rushing touchdowns. He gets some carries, but he's been pressured so often. But here's the thing: he is fifth among quarterbacks in pressured catchable pass rate. So even when he's been pressured, he's still been getting it to his guys. And it's just, who are the guys he's throwing it to, right? This offense is not good. It doesn't have the talent. So I expect that the Patriots will address that next year. So we have a high floor guy who can complete passes under pressure. And we've seen quarterback 10, quarterback 7, quarterback 10, quarterback 14, quarterback 11. Like, he's not going to drop below quarterback 16 on almost any week. But the question is, can he get ceiling games? And that's what I'm putting chips in on for next year is, yes, they're going to get a little bit more talent in New England.
Yeah, I mean, in their first two round picks, one of them should be on a receiver and the other one should be probably on an offensive tackle. Because that's my one concern there is not only is the skill group, the pass catcher group atrocious, the wide receiver group is terrible, but their offensive line's a bottom tier group too, so they need help in both areas. But I'm with you. If he could do it this year, the ceiling's much higher next year. The floor is probably better. I actually don't. I know the play caller's gotten a lot of stuff, and I'm not really a big fan of Jared Mayo. That didn't really make much sense to me. But their offensive coordinators called a few good games this year, so I have some optimism there too if they stay pat.
Yeah, that's Van Pelt, right? That's Van Pelt. He
Mhm.
was previously with the Browns, and I think previously with the Green Bay Packers as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. I don't think he's like a great play caller, but like I think a lot of people view him as a dude who needs to be fired immediately. Where like I'm more on the fence about that.
Yeah, we need more talent for the evaluation because he's
Yeah.
Also, how bad of a bomb was Jalen Polk?
Yeah. Non-factor. Yeah. That's not. I wasn't a huge fan of him, but he had the opportunity, and opportunities most of the battle in fantasy, as you know better than anyone as a data guy, and just hasn't been there. It hasn't been there. And again, Maye has been really good since he's taken over. So I think the problem lies with Polk.
Yeah. Maye has 18.5 fantasy points or more in 3 of the last 4 games. And, he's hit over 20 fantasy points in 3 games this season. His floor, outside of that New York Jets game where, he was just getting a couple reps here and there, he has 1 game that is below quarterback 18 on the season. 1.
Good. Man.
That's a high floor. So Drake Maye, we want to be in on Mr. Maye. All right, Ryan, you have a guy who's on this list who didn't play this year. Tell us about JJ McCarthy and your optimism for him in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sam Darnold. I always have like that. If you're in a situation where you don't have a real option at quarterback, I think reclamation projects on former first rounders is a great idea. Worked with Baker Mayfield. It's working with Darnold. That said, what Kevin O'Connell has gotten out of Sam Darnold has been tremendous. And they have the foundation supporting cast wise. Just, the skill group, obviously we don't even have to say anything. Jefferson, Jones, Hawkinson, Addison, as good as it gets. Christian Darrisaw, left tackle, will be back, and they've done well even in his absence. So great situation, coach, quarterback. McCarthy has some rushing upside. If he was a Raider, I wouldn't care about McCarthy. But him being in Minnesota, I think just about anyone could succeed there. I hope he goes in like the 14th, 15th round. It'll be wild how much exposure I have on him if he goes in that range.
I think he might go later, at least in
Yeah, he
early
may.
drafts.
He
In
may.
the big board drafts, I think he'll be forgotten about.
Yeah. Be all over that.
Okay, if Sam Darnold leaves, there's been some speculation among different places that he ends up in Indianapolis. How do you feel about Sam Darnold if he leaves and goes to the Colts?
I think I'll be happy for him that he's made, probably $100 million to go to the Colts, but I wouldn't have a ton of optimism of him. No, he could probably be a league average starter there, but yeah, I think this could be the peak if he goes to the Colts.
It's probably the peak. I agree with you. Wherever he goes, if he leaves Minnesota. Now, the Vikings could, in theory, franchise tag him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, they have too many holes. They're going to need to start paying people too, and they have holes on their roster. So I would really consider keeping him if I were them, frankly. But if O'Connell wanted McCarthy, they're going to see what happens with that most likely.
yeah, we'll monitor that situation. We'll flip to the tight ends. We've got 4 tight ends to bring you. Throw your questions in the chat. We're going to answer them here after we talk about the tight ends that we're in on for 2025. Some of them are deeper cuts, Ryan, and one of them has been playing very well, and it's the tight end in Kansas City. Oh, it's not Taylor Swift's boyfriend. No, it's Noah Gray. That's right, Noah Gray, who has just progressively improved over the course of the last couple of years. He's earned the trust. We've talked on this show before about the 2 tight end sets, but also there's within the range of outcomes that Travis Kelce straight up retires. That is within the range of outcomes. I'm not saying Travis Kelce retires. No, but what I am saying is that you should prepare for that possibility. And Noah Gray has proven to be a full-time player in a Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes offense that will look his way in the red zone, in the end zone. There's touchdown upside to be had, but also some meaningful targets and downfield throws. That's what you're going to get in a Mahomes offense. So give me some late Noah Gray in my best ball shares. Like, it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, especially on DraftKings with 20 rounds. I'm going to have a lot of Noah Gray. He's signed through 2027. They're definitely not cutting him next year. He has a $4.5 million salary, $7.4 million cap hit. So
Reasonable.
he's going to be a Kansas City Chief next year without any shadow of a doubt. I think it's a bit like the Kincaid Dawson Knox conundrum, but Gray's been there longer. Like you said, he has the confidence of Mahomes, and they have so much turnover in their wide receiver room where I'm with you all the way. I told you before we went on the show, Noah Gray was going to be on my list if he wasn't already on yours. So I'm with you all the way here, pal.
All right, hit us with your first tight end, my guy for 2025.
So I have Jake Ferguson on here. A couple of reasons. One, they're probably going to bring in another complement to CeeDee Lamb next year, but Ferguson's stats are going to be depressed because Dak Prescott's out. If you go back and look at his early season usage, you see 7 targets, 8 targets, 11 targets. Big time usage. Not a tremendous athlete or a difference maker in that standpoint, but he's going to be there next year. Long term in Dynasty, if I get Luke Schoonmaker for cheap, I'm interested in that. But I expect, Ferguson last year, I viewed him as kind of the cliff for tight end. Like he was the last solid guy you could get. I imagine I'll feel the same way about him this year.
Yeah, Ferguson, he's like a Dalton Schultz clone. Like he still is on the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
He's going to get some usage.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And I agree with you. The Cowboys are probably going to address wide receiver. They need someone else to take the pressure off of Lamb. It's clear that teams will double and triple Lamb at times. And that's been frustrating for not only Lamb, but also the rest of the offense to get going because Jalen Tolbert hasn't hit. Brandon Cooks is probably on his way out. So we're looking at a very open wide receiver 2 position, with Michael Gallup been long gone for some time now. So Yeah, as it may take time for that wide receiver to establish himself, and there's Jake Ferguson opportunity. The other thing is that oftentimes tight end target share is inversely correlated with running back target share. And yes, Rico Dowdle has been, involved here and there, but I think this also depends on what type of running back the Dallas Cowboys bring in, because I don't know. It's hard to get a read organizationally their perspective on Rico Dowdle, because if they're confident in Rico Dowdle, they're not going to draft him, and they're just going to continue to ride Rico Dowdle. But if they draft I don't know, if they draft a first or second round running back,
Yeah,
I think that hurts Ferguson significantly.
Yeah, Jerry Jones is the sort of guy who would draft the Boise State kid if he's there. He definitely is.
He wants to sell
Otherwise-
jerseys. Like, that's a Jerry
Yeah.
Jones. He wants to get the flashy guy. You can't sell jerseys of a guy who's on IR. That's why we shouldn't have been drafting Jonathan Brooks or bringing him to Dallas. Jerry Jones wants to sell jerseys. You can't sell jerseys if you're on the IR.
It's actually like a legitimately good point. He's a businessman first. Obviously, they took Ezekiel Elliott over Jalen Ramsey years ago. Dowdle's the guy, like, they probably should take a guy in the 3rd or 4th round to supplement him, but they have holes now where they're crazy if they take a running back in the first 2 rounds.
Let's say Dallas does not draft a running back in day 1 or day 2. Where should Rico Dowdle go? Round 6? Round 5? Is that too low?
Oh man, that like pains me to even think about. And I was all in on Dowdle this year. I was like way overweight.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay the premium on him. I'll pay it on Chuba Hubbard because of the situation. Dowdle, I think, is a guy where I think the chances of him making it through a 18 game season as a bell cow are slim to none. So they should scale back his workload next year. But yeah, I mean, he's a Cowboy, so 6th round, 7th round, where you feel terrible about it. I wouldn't do that, though. That's not for me.
That's, I think, where he's going to land, Ryan. He's going to be in the dead zone.
Yeah. The dead zone, yeah.
The dead zone. Well, a player who has not been in the dead zone as of late, Brenton Strange. If you don't know his name, start listening, because the Jaguars drafted him 2 years ago in the 2nd round. Evan Ingram is very cuttable. Like, talk about a very strong cut candidate, Evan Ingram. And Ingram has been out the last couple games. In the games where Strange has played at least 60% of snaps, so majority of snaps, 60% or more, he finished this season on the week as the tight end 9, the tight end 8, the tight end 24, the tight end 9, and the tight end 2.
That's very interesting.
We want to be in on Brenton Strange. He has the draft capital. He's proven an opportunity. There's no incentive for the Jaguars to bring back Ingram on the deal. They probably want a fresh blood anyways.
Yeah.
Probably Strange is probably on a good contract. And Strange did this both with Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones. So Brenton Strange is a player that we want to be drafting very heavily, and I am very in favor of taking late. Of course, we're going to be drafting the Brock Bowers of the world, the George Kittles of the world, blah, blah, blah. No. We want to be drafting a Brenton Strange. He's going to be a top 12 tight end next year.
Yeah, I love late tight end strategies, and I'm going to add on your Evan Ingram cut candidate standpoint. Trent Baalke is one of those guys who's so bad at his job, like he should be like sent out of the country. You don't like anyone to lose their job. Like, that's a dude who needs to lose his job, because the Jaguars are a semi-terrible roster, and he spent a lot of money on a lot of things that were unnecessary. You don't need a tight end that's overpaid and declining now when you have the holes they do. So I'm with you. if they can cut Ingram, they're going to.
Yeah, Penn State tight ends. Can't hate them. Can't hate them. Brenton
Sure.
Strange. All right, Ryan, hit us with your last tight end guy to round out the pod tonight.
One of the more surprising things this season, my guy Evan Silva used to refer to Zach Ertz as a catch and fall tight end, and that hasn't gotten better as time has progressed. But in Washington, especially in the first half of the season, just like he was borderline the main vein in the Commanders' passing attack. I don't think that's going to last. He's, maybe they bring him on a cheap veteran deal next year. Who knows? But I'm going to bet a little bit on Ben Sinnott, second-round pick last year, 53rd overall, I believe. I think he can walk right into that role. John Bates is there, but John Bates is more of a tight end too, like a blocker type guy.
Yeah.
Where they've been in the same offense for the same amount of time. Sano's a better athlete. I like upside. We want upside in best ball, especially. So I'm a guy who likes taking 3 tight ends late in best ball teams. So Brenton Strange and Ben Sinnott late. That sounds like things I'll be doing a lot next offseason.
A lot. Ben Sinnott's player profiler comp is Cole Kmet.
That's probably why I like him.
You love to hear that. Yes. Second round draft capital you mentioned earlier. And this is almost Trey McBride 2.0, where Zach Ertz was in the way. Zach Ertz leaves. Zach Ertz stunts Trey McBride for rookie year. Zach Ertz leaves. Trey McBride blossoms.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz in the way. Zach Ertz hopefully leaves, and then we see Ben Sinnott doing his thing.
I like it. Listen, especially in the late rounds of best ball, like you're going to be wrong sometimes. Like take some home run swings.
All right, hit the home runs. All right, Ryan, let's take a look at a couple questions that we have in the chat as we bring it home today. Devonta Smith or Jalen McMillan? Now that Hurts has appeased everyone, are they going to go right back to running the ball? Bucks playing for the 3rd seed, Eagles trying to gain ground. I'm still going Devonta Smith here.
Yeah, I am too. I just want to make sure I absolutely know who Philly's playing first. Yeah, I'm playing Devonta Smith against Washington, 100%.
Yeah. All right. George is asking Terry McLaurin or Marvin Harrison. I think it's Terry McLaurin. Yeah.
It has to be. Harrison hasn't been reliable enough. Yeah, it has to be.
If Kamara's out, would you like Kendre Miller over one of these receivers? Give me Kendre over Marvin Harrison if Kamara's out.
Oh man, the thing is, I don't think you're wrong. I think McLaurin, Kendre Miller if Kamara's out, Harrison for me too. Although in week 17, I'm playing Harrison against the Rams.
Yes, absolutely. JSN, Bucky Irving, or Rashad White. Oh, it's either JSN or Bucky Irving. Ryan, break the tie.
Let me go to the schedule, make sure I know. I flubbed this like 3 weeks ago with Seattle versus Minnesota. I think I'm going to go JSN because offensive line issues. Geno Smith's going to be hobbled and he's going to be back. They're going to need to get the ball out quick. JSN should have a pretty high volume game next week.
Love it. Neighbors, Devontae Adams, Jonathan Taylor, pick 2.
Devontae and Jonathan Taylor.
And we're going Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Over Kyler.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Thielen, Shakir, or Dawdle, PPR.
I think you have to go Dawdle, although Shakir's made it interesting, hasn't he?
Thielen had a bum game last week, but he was also a top 15 wide receiver the last couple before that. So let's go Dawdle.
Just got to ultimately bet on volume, right? With Dawdle? Yeah.
Start Kyler or Jordan Love. I think you got to start Kyler.
Yeah.
Jacobs has been getting a lot of the rushing touchdowns.
My concern with Jordan Love in New Orleans, that game could be 17-0, like 5 minutes in, and they might throw 10 passes the rest of the way. So I think I go Kyler too.
McMillan or Reed? Jaden Reed.
Oh.
I'm going McMillan. I'm going McMillian. Let's go, baby.
I'm going to go Reed, and I don't actually have any confidence in it, which is crazy. But
Ford, Jerome Ford, or Tazi Spears. If I can't start Charbonnet because Walker did practice today. I don't know if it was a limited practice, but he did in some capacity practice today. I'd go Ford.
I go for it too. Volume is king in that situation.
Yep. All right, y'all. It's been great hanging out with y'all. Follow Ryan on X at Ryan Reynolds NFL, at FF Stalder on the X Machine. It's man versus machine. Signing out for you for the 2024 season. Until next time, everyone. Good luck in the fantasy football playoffs.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.